in the province, an amount of between 5 and 6 million rand has been set aside for a new cemetery project in Nxuba. But work hasn't started and the site is barely touched. Now the Inxuba Yethemba Local Municipality is planning to spend another 5 million rands to try and get it moving, even as serious questions remain about whether the necessary environmental and planning certificates were ever secured. Newzroom Afrika's Sipha Kema is keeping an eye on this one and joins us now. The story gets curiouser and curiouser, as Alice said. Sipha, what's the latest on this? And also, what progress, if any, was made on the previous allocation of money?
Well, we've moved, Iman, from the old cemetery. We're now at a cemetery called Central, and this is where the municipality is looking to expand the areas where people can bury their loved ones. Now, this is what we're seeing currently behind me. As you can see, this is where the contractor was busy expanding. Now, the reason why the grave sites had stopped at a certain place was because all you can see is rock that has been blasted. So the area, the soil was not conducive for digging. So what they're trying to do with this project, 6 million rands was spent on the blasting just to try and loosen up the stones, as well as then they were supposed to cover this up in proper soil so that those that cannot bury their loved ones at the other cemetery, the old cemetery, as there's no space, then will be able to utilize this space that has been expanded or created for people of Nxuba. Now, just if you can see also on my right here, there are particles and heaps of rocks that were actually removed from that area. Now, as you can see, this is hard rock that you're seeing, Iman, which has made it very difficult. And I'm keen to actually find out from Betty Lavenzel. Betty, thank you so much for talking to us, who is a DA councillor, part of the council that makes these decisions, more especially this particular area. Now, before we get into the certifications and the plannings around this, when was this a project proposed to council?
This project was proposed to council immediately after the cemetery in town was full, and there was no place to bury the people anymore. And then we started burying at this cemetery. So when the space was finished, in fact, it was in 2022 around there, whereby we were told that the actual space that is currently here, where people are being buried, is going to finish by November that year. So, but I was a bit worried also. Those are the questions that we've asked, that why is there a delay in this project to start?
Now, 6 million has already been used and council is looking to put in a further 5 million. What already has been done? I know that you had a standing committee meeting yesterday and part of the discussion was this project. So what has been done besides the blasting here?
It's the blasting, as you can see. And yesterday in the standing committee, our members that are serving on that committee asked the questions about the progress on the blasting. Because in the agenda, it shows that blasting is continuing. So our members asked, how far is it? And they were told by the executive mayor to submit their questions in writing. So actually they didn't get an straight answer to the question. And you would know that in the previous interviews that were done here about this cemetery, the mayor said it was 80% completed. So you can see for yourself that this is very far from 80%. So, and it's a big concern for us, because we don't know. Time is flying. People are being buried. Every weekend there's about 10 to 20 funerals in Craddock alone.
And Betty, talking about when it comes to spatial planning, there should be a framework for municipalities as a guideline, especially regarding the bylaws as well. What are the bylaws here in this area, in this specific area in Nxuba, when it comes to burial sites? More especially with what we saw at that old cemetery, where people that are not even relatives are being put literally on top of each other.
You know, bylaws that we're having currently in our municipality are not promulgated. So we have the bylaws, but we can't do anything about the bylaws. Hence, we've asked the questions in the standing committee, of which we were not answered on. You would remember also that, remember the cemetery where you came from was in the previous term declared closed, and it can no longer be used. Now, if we were making use of our bylaws, we wouldn't have went back to that cemetery and reopened it to bury people there again, because we are guided by bylaws. But as I'm telling you, we have the bylaws, but they are not promulgated.
All right, so thank you so much, Betty Lavens, there, a DA councillor in Nxuba Yethemba Local Municipality. Now, these are the questions, of course, we are also going to pose to the mayor, who we will be talking to a bit later at about 2 o'clock when they come out of the state of district address. But also, just something very important to mention, Iman, is that as we were driving out of the old cemetery, the people from Environmental Affairs, the officials, had actually just arrived to also come and have a look at what is happening at that cemetery, just to also assess if what they are trying to do in moving or expanding to the sports field is actually against Environmental Affairs regulation, as that is on the flood line, as we've been told by Charles Garth that there had been flooding in 1974 and they had seen bodies that were popping out of graves from that flooding. So should they continue to utilize that sports field and expand there, it could cause serious problems for families when the floods come.